Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we are here today with what might very well be the most exciting video that we have done since being on YouTube. Yes, I have gotten my grimy little mitts on the all-new Jetson Xavier NX, and let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it is one bad boy. So what we're going to be doing today is we will be putting the Jetson Xavier NX through its paces. So I will need you to pour yourself a nice big mug of iced coffee, and I will need you to get ready to see some pretty cool stuff. I'm going to warn you right off the bat, this is not going to be your typical review. What is your typical review? The guy has it in the box, he has a little X-Acto knife, he carefully opens it up, he brings it out, he puts up a chart of the specs, then he runs the demo programs that came with it, and then he runs some benchmarking. You get excited, you go out and you buy the board, you open it up, you boot it, you run the demo programs, and then you throw it into that huge stack of single board computers on your workbench that you never learned how to use. And so to me, the question for today's review is not so much how much raw computational power is on the board, because no doubt it is immense. There is a mind-boggling amount of processing power on this board. The real question for me, though, is how much of that processing power can a normal person like me or you actually utilize? And what do I mean by a normal person? Well, a normal person I would define as somebody who's done a lot of playing around with the Arduino, very comfortable with the Arduino platform, maybe booted up the Raspberry Pi and done some Python programming there, kind of know your way around the Linux terminal. You know, your typical home hobbyist, okay? And so to me, the issue is not how much raw computation power a new board has, because it seems like new boards come out once a week and always these great specs, but the real question to me is that what can we do with it? And that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to be taking this thing through its paces. I'm not going to show you anything that I didn't write. The programs that I show you are programs that I wrote, and if I can do it, I can teach you, because I taught you the Arduino, I taught you the Raspberry Pi, I taught you Fusion 360, and I'm in the process of teaching you the Jetson Nano. And so, you know, if I know how to do it, I can show you how to do it. And so we're going to see today exactly what can I do with this cool new board. You're probably sensing I'm very excited about it already. Okay, so what should we say about this? I gave some specs there in the opening intro. Hope you liked the new intro. Thought I ought to kind of spiff it up a little bit, jazz it up a little bit for the new board that came out. Hope you liked it. But where would I just jump in and describe this board? The first thing that you'll see is it pretty much has the form factor of the Jetson Nano. Not only does it have the form factor of the Jetson Nano, this new board also runs on Jetpack, just like the Jetson Nano does. And right off the bat, that makes me happy, because yeah, I'm excited about the new board, but I don't want to have to start learning everything from scratch. So the good news is, because this runs on Jetpack, all that stuff that we learned on the Jetson Nano can be put to use on the Jetson Xavier, and so that to me is very exciting. I like it also that if you look, because of the number of CPUs, all those GPUs, CPUs, and Tensor Cores that this thing has, they went ahead and put the fan on it, built it in. And you remember on the Jetson Nano, we had to kind of do the fan management. We had to find a fan and get it screwed on there, get it all hooked up and everything. I really like this out of the box. It has the fan. The other thing that you'll see out of the box is similar to the second version of the Jetson Nano. This actually has 2 slots for Raspberry Pi cameras, so you can run 2 Raspberry Pi cameras. My original Jetson Nano, you can only run 1 Raspberry Pi camera at a time, so I thought it was pretty cool that this one, out of the box first version, does allow you to run 2 Raspberry Pi style cameras. The other thing that makes me happy is that, like the Jetson Nano, this has the 40 GPIO pins, and those GPIO pins are what allow us to interact with the outside world. So yes, you have a supercomputer, but that supercomputer can interact with its environment. It can make sensor readings. It can move things. It can interact with the real world. Now, even better than that, what I have found is, most of the work that I had done on the Jetson Nano was on Jetpack 4.2. And on Jetpack 4.2, it was actually a little bit of a chore to interact with these GPIO pins. But now on Jetpack 4.4, they've made it much easier to interact with the GPIO pins. And what I found is a lot of the standard libraries, like the standard Adafruit libraries, you could just run unmodified on this, and therefore you could use a lot of those really cool accessories and devices that are on Adafruit, sensors and various modules. Those will run very easily on this using the Adafruit library. So for example, I got 2 servos, made a pan tilt platform, and I was able to run those things on the Jetson Xavier by simply plugging them into the right GPIO pins and running the Adafruit libraries. And so I thought that was super cool. That really has me excited, not just that this has way more processing power, but that we're able to more easily interact with the outside world through the GPIO pins. We can turn it upside down, and there is just even more good news. What you can see is similar to the Jetson Nano. You have got this slot where you can put your Wi-Fi and Bluetooth module, but this, unlike the Jetson Nano, sits on top of a little bit of a plastic base, and because it sits on a little bit of a plastic base, over here they've put 2 nice little slots for the Wi-Fi antenna, so you don't have to do that antenna management like you do on the Jetson Nano. Here you've got a nice little place for the antennas. Now, perhaps the best news of all that really made me happy was this PCI slot where you can put in a solid state drive. And you can see that today we are running a Western Digital WD Black 250 gigabyte hard drive. The reason I really like this, I think you still probably, I don't know of a way to completely boot from that drive without having the SD card at least in there to sort of pivot the boot over to the hard drive. But what I like about this is when you're doing development, you're installing a lot of things, you're really in there doing a whole lot of stuff, and I have had that little SD card get corrupted more than one time, and so it's really nice to be storing your programs down on this solid state drive. Now, on the Jetson Nano, what I had to do to get external storage was to hook it up through a USB. And you never have as many USB ports as you really need to begin with. And then it's also kind of a kludgy thing to have a hard drive hanging off of your USB. And so really like this. So everything I've seen so far, I really like. And so now, what I want us to do is I want us to go in and I want us to see if we can get this thing booted up and see exactly what we can do. Because again, the analogy to me in getting a board like this, it's a little bit like somebody gave you a Ferrari. Okay, they give you a Ferrari and it's beautiful and it's bright red and you can turn it on and it makes those race car noises and you're all excited. And you see the experts and they're out on the track, going around the track at 180 miles an hour. But the problem is you don't know how to shift gears. So you get in it and you go around the track at 30 miles an hour because you can't get out of first gear. And that's what these single board computers are like. Like, just because the GPUs are there doesn't mean that you as a normal person can get your code down there executing in it. So what I really want to see today is for us normal people of the incredible mind-boggling amount of computation that is on this thing, how much can we actually access? So that is what we are going to be doing today. This will be a little bit of a longer review because I really want to put this thing through its paces, and I want to put it through its paces in programs that I write, and then we can kind of see how well that works. So I'm going to come over here, and I think I will get out of your way, and I will switch to a different camera view. And we will come over here, and yeah, I think that looks nice. I think this is going to work okay. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start plugging things into it. And I like to start, this is the little dongle for my wireless keyboard. Okay, the little dongle for my wireless keyboard and mouse. So I'll start by putting that in. And I have found that that does good. That kind of does better if you put it in a place where it's got line of sight to the keyboard, because I have gotten it kind of buried down in one of those lower, further away USBs, and the keyboard's had a little trouble finding it. Okay, now we are going to plug in our first USB camera, and this is the Logitech 920 camera. And then I will also be plugging in a ELP camera, webcam, and I will plug that in up here. Now, like I said earlier, this thing has the 2 slots for the Raspberry Pi style cameras, but it's just cable management and camera management is a little bit easier for the sake of this review to use the webcams. But I have played around with the Raspberry Pi cameras, and indeed they work great. Okay, now we are putting this thing through its paces today, so I do want to give you some demonstrations of working with those GPIO pins. So I am going to attempt to plug in 2 servos. I did some kludgy Scotch tape here, hoping that I would be able to then plug all of everything in at the same time. And I'm going to kind of be mindful to look at that. And I actually believe that I got that in there correctly. And now we will put in the HDMI cable. And we have already flashed the SD card. And guys, I've made several videos on how to flash those cards, so I'm not going to bore you by repeating that. If you haven't seen those videos, let me just say it's real easy to flash the cards. It's no big deal, and so don't worry at all about that. But to save time, I already flashed it. It is already in, and so now we are going to try to boot this thing. And because this is our first boot, I'm going to have to ask you to hold your breath. And if everyone holds their breath, I do believe this thing will boot. So let's go. 1, 2, 3. Yay! Okay, we got the happy little NVIDIA logo. Don't you love that logo? Is it just me, or does it make you happy when you see the little logo pop up? And I don't know why. I've just always loved to see Linux computers boot. There's just all this stuff going by. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I love watching a Linux computer boot. Okay, so it looks like it's at least alive. Signs of life. We got the happy little NVIDIA logo again. And let's see here. Looks like we are getting really close to seeing something good. And boom! We have booted up in Ubuntu. And it just did not take very long at all. And so this is exciting. I also love the cool background, the screen background that they put on this thing. That is just really screams of supercomputer to me. So I really like that. Okay, so let's see if we can kind of get this thing configured and start putting it through its paces. Now, one of the things that I told you is that a real theme of this video review is going to be how much of that GPU horsepower we are able to access, or whether we are just sitting there in first gear, our race car in first gear, doing all of our processing on the GPU. So what we will do is we're going to come in and we are going to open a terminal, and we are going to run a program called JTOP, and it is run with sudo JTOP. And let's see if that thing will fire up. Boom, there it is. And this is a really cool program. Even if you guys are on the Nano and don't have the Xavier yet, this is a really cool program, because what it shows you here is it shows you that I am on Jetpack 4.4. Believe it or not, I have found it extremely difficult to figure out what version of Jetpack I'm on. Like if I have different SD cards floating around, this is a cool little program. It shows you that you're on Jetpack 4.4 and L4T 32.4.2. It shows you that on the Jetson Xavier, we will be running with 6 count them 6 CPU. But most exciting down here is this line where it is showing you the usage of your GPU. Now, if we are sitting here in Linux doing nothing in particular, you can see that nothing is happening on the GPU. Well, every once in a while, maybe it seems like when I move my mouse a little bit, it hops up and does stuff. So it jumps down there every once in a while. But mainly things are going on up here in the CPU, as you would expect. And the CPUs, the 6 of them, are running at about 10%, maybe 15%. So as we're doing these demos, what I want you to be mindful of, and I'll be mindful of, and if I'm not, be sure to remind me that we want to be checking out this GPU line and see if we are actually getting our processing down on those cores or not. Now, what I will say is that probably a lot of times with these single board computers, you guys get them and you get them home and you start playing around with them, and they're running your programs, but they're not actually running them on the, on the GPUs. And so we want to be very mindful of that, and we want to see, are we really using the horsepower that is available to us? Now, the nice thing is that when NVIDIA makes these Jetpack images, they put the versions of software on there that play nicely together and enable them to be on the CPUs. And so by using their configurations and not going out and upgrading to newer versions of software, what I definitely recommend is run the versions of software that come on the Jetpack image and then wait for the new version of Jetpack, and then things will be upgraded in a way that you'll still be able to access those GPUs. A lot of times people email me, oh, well, this is going wrong, that's going wrong. Well, what did they do? They went in and they put in this new pack, they upgraded this package, and this package has started changing things, and then all of a sudden they're kind of stuck on the GPUs. Okay, I am talking too much. Let's jump in here. You guys know how much I love Visual Studio Code, so we will be coding in Visual Studio Code today. Pop that thing up, and with a little luck it will open up here, and let me do a little tiny amount of Windows management. You guys that watch my channel know that we must have our windows perfectly aligned for the universe to be in proper order. Okay, so let's come in and let's run our first program. And what I want to do is, you guys know that normally on all my videos I write the code along with you right in front of you, but I want to do a lot of demos today, so I already wrote the code. I'll kind of explain it to you a little bit, but just rest assured, anything that I show you today I wrote, and if I wrote it, I can teach you to write it. Okay, so you know that. I taught you Arduino, I taught you Raspberry Pi, I taught you all those different things, so you know that already. So let's look at this program. This is a simple Python program. Most of you guys should recognize it. We import OpenCV. We then tell it what size we want our image to be, 800 by 600. Then we create a camera object. We create the camera object with a simple command, cv2.videoCapture. That's an OpenCV command. And then we are going to camera 0. And so you can look in your /dev and you can see what cameras you have. We have 2, video 0, video 1. For this demo, we will be operating on video camera 0. Then after that, we tell the camera, after we create the camera, we tell the camera how wide we want it to be and how high we want the image to be. So we're setting parameters on the camera so that we get an image the size that we want. And then just to make sure that we get that, after setting it, we ask it, we check, make sure we're getting what we wanted, and then after we ask it for the size, we print it out. So really we could skip those 5 lines of code if we wanted to and just take the default value. We then start a while loop, while true. When it's true, true, true is always true. So we created an infinite loop, and we do 2 very simple things. We grab a frame from the camera, and then we show a frame from a camera. If we sit and just grab, show, grab, show, grab, show, we are making a what? We are making a movie, which with a little luck, it should pop up here. Boom. Okay. in just a couple of minutes from booting, we're already doing something pretty cool. We are grabbing a frame and we are showing a frame, and this is off of, I do believe, let's see, that is off of the Logitech 920 camera. So let's go ahead and kill that with the Q. What this stuff down here is, this just lets us kill the program cleanly, release the camera, and destroy all the windows. So this is just a little cleanup at the end of the program. But we can see really the action is creating the camera and then reading the frame and showing the frame. Now this is the cool thing with a computer that is this fast. You see, we read the frame and we show the frame. We see we are sitting here now in this magic spot between grabbing a frame and showing the frame. And this is where all the magic happens, because what I want you to see is, I want you to see that if this camera is running at 30 frames a second, and you've got like a 30th of a second in here between grab and show, in computer time, that's like 15 years. You've got like all the time in the world to do all types of wonderful or mischievous things. And so that is what this is really about. Is the artificial intelligence is about the magical things that you can do between grabbing a frame and showing a frame. Now, give you one other quick little demo. If we can run one camera, well, why not run two cameras? And so instead of just creating the cam, we're going to create one camera called Cam 0. That's going to be on video 0 like before. That was the Logitech camera. And then we're also going to create Cam 1, which is going to be on video 1. That's my ELP camera. Let's see if I can show you the ELP camera. Yeah, it's sitting over there. Okay, that's my ELP camera. So we're going to see if we can run two cameras. And with this, I also want to show you something else. You got to kind of start thinking about an image not as this mysterious data. What you got to see is it's simply an array, a math array, where you have rows and columns, and then you have values at each point of intersection of row and column. And so those of you who have done any Python at all have certainly run into NumPy. So what I want you to see is I have grabbed a frame from camera 0, that's frame 0, grabbed a frame from camera 1, that's frame 1, and rather than having two windows, I'm going to just treat those as data arrays, and I'm going to horizontally stack them together. So I'm going to have one picture that is the two images horizontally stacked together with a little luck. And then what I will do is I will show just one frame. Okay, I will show just one frame, which is, or just one window, which is the combined frame. So let's go ahead and see if we can do that. Guys, notice, I don't even notice if the fan has come on yet. This is just so trivial for this board that it hasn't even bothered turning the fan on. So let's go ahead and run these two cameras and see if we have any luck. Boom! All right. Camera number 1 and camera number 2. Okay, so you see how easy this is? I mean, this isn't some big mysterious black box. This is nice, friendly Python. And if you look down here, particularly, like if you look, I think that when you start moving, it starts doing image compression, and then that starts being more computationally intense. Maybe I'm just imagining it, but it seems like the GPUs start being used a lot more when there's a lot of motion. It seems like they pop up. But you can see that our CPUs are running at about 25%, and then a lot of the processing is being done down in the GPU, and that's what we wanted to see. Why is that? Because the guys at NVIDIA, they actually know what they're doing. They gave us a Jetpack, an operating system image that has a version of OpenCV that's actually GPU friendly, that's actually trying to push that processing down onto the GPU. So that's very good news. So let's go ahead and quit this. All right, and let's go ahead to my next demo. Now, what I was talking about earlier is that magic spot that exists between that IntelliSense autocomplete. I love it and I hate it. I love it when I'm trying to figure out what the command, but I hate it when I'm trying to do a video and it keeps popping that window up in front of me and covering up what I'm trying to show. Okay, but we're sitting in this magical spot between grabbing the frame from the camera and showing the frame on the display. And so what type of things can we do? Well, let me come over here, and you can see this program is a little bit longer. It's about 65 lines of code, but just good old-fashioned Python loading in our files. But I'm just going to run this and kind of show you, talk you through it after we run it. So I'm going to run Python file in terminal. Okay, look here. So what you can see is we've got a picture of me, and then floating in front of me is the Python logo. And so let me kind of show you how that works. In that space between the read the frame and show the frame, I went out and I grabbed a JPEG image of the Python logo. I then converted that JPEG image, and I am sorry that my cursor is not bigger there, but hopefully you can see it. I converted that JPEG image to grayscale, and then from grayscale I thresholded it to create a mask. Okay, this is the foreground mask, and then I take the opposite of the foreground mask to create the background mask, and then after creating the background mask, what I create is I take the foreground and I AND it with this image, and then the foreground mask with the Python image, and then I end up with what? The foreground. And I'm going to have to move to a different shot here because you can't see all these. Okay, now let's work on the background. I run over, and without you even noticing, I steal a little piece from the picture, a little region of interest from the picture. Okay, and then I apply the background mask to that. And then what do I end up here? I end up with the background. Now if I add the background to the foreground, I end up with the whole image, which is the Python logo floating over the frame that's coming from the camera. Now this is the little thing that I created in that space between grab a frame and show a frame. And right, I stole that little piece of the picture that you didn't even notice. Now, before you even see that it's gone, I'm going to go back and put it back over there. So this thing that we created here, you see that's the logo on top of that little region of interest. We're going to run back and put it on the image. And then what you see here is this really cool demo where we have a little watermark that is floating around the screen, and all this is happening in the blink of the eye where you don't even know it. And again, we look over here, and yes, we're getting to see more GPU action here. I saw a couple of times it was going up to 70-80% as it's doing a lot of this image processing. So we're doing a cool demo, and we are doing it in the GPU, which is really what I wanted to see. I just think that this is kind of a silly demo, but I think it's kind of a fun demo. And really, this is kind of a neat demo because you kind of got to learn a lot of the OpenCV to do a simple little program like this. So it's a good learning program, and I think I did a lesson on it on my Jetson Nano series. So we're going to go back to the larger image of the Jetson Xavier NX. And I apologize if I've ever called it the Nano during this thing. I do a lot of work on the Nano, and this review is about the Jetson Xavier NX. So we're going to quit out of this program. Okay, now that was not really doing per se. It was not per se doing any artificial intelligence. It was really just doing more more image processing, right? It wasn't looking at anything and learning anything or making any decisions. But the next program, we're going to kind of just ever so slightly dip our toe into artificial intelligence. And why do I say that? Because what the program does depends on what it sees from the camera. So it kind of has to start learning. So again, not full-blown artificial intelligence, but dipping our toe into the topic. So what I'm going to do here is see if I can train it to see something, see if I can train it to learn something. And I hope this works because I hope that it is hooked up to the right camera. But if it doesn't, I've just got to switch one command because sometimes I'm not sure which is video 0 and which is video 1. But what I want to see is I want to see, can I train it to learn this pin? Okay. Now the very, very simplest way that you can recognize an object is on color. And so you notice I picked something with kind of a unique color. I picked something with a unique color, and then I train on that color. So if we kind of just look at the code, what you can see is that I'm setting these limits for hue, saturation, and value, and then I'm creating kind of a threshold where I'm only going to keep the parts of the picture that are within those limits of color, and I'm going to throw everything else away. And then when I have only the object of interest, then I'm going to draw a box around it, and then I'm going to go put it back on the main program if things work the way I want. You see, I got a lot of white space in this code, but it's still just 44 lines of code, so we could develop something like this in like 15 minutes. And again, this is the type of thing that I could actually teach you to do. So let's come up and let's make sure that we're not already running the program. And let's go ahead and let's see if we can run this thing. Run Python file in terminal. And nothing seems to be happening. Did I not do that right? Let's try that again. Right mouse click. Run Python file in terminal. All right. Boom. Look at that. Okay. Now you see we have a V-stack image, right? We stacked horizontally on the other one. Here we stack vertically. This is the original image. The program looks at the image, looks for that color that I defined, and then in the bottom image here, it throws out everything. In the bottom screen, it throws out everything that isn't the found image. Then we do a contour on that. We box it, and then we put it back up in the upper picture. So I just want to make sure you can see that. You see that it finds the pin, and then it boxes it, and it tracks it. Okay, you see, that's pretty cool. And if we look at that, again, we are running on the GPU. The CPUs are about 25–30%, and all of this is being done on the GPU. And the other thing that I want you to see is we're really smooth, right? While we're doing this, we're really smooth. It is very, very smooth. Later on, we're going to get a frame counter in there so we can look at frames per second, but this is certainly running at the 30 frames per second that the camera is capable of. So, wow, I am having fun with this. I am really having fun with this. Okay, so I said that we're tracking it. We're tracking it as long as it is in the field of view. Okay, we're tracking it as long as it's in the field of view. But what if I really wanted to track it? What if I really, really, really wanted to track it? Let me kill this. What I am going to do then is I am going to move over to my ELP camera, which is sitting on top of a pan tilt servo that I built. Well, it's a pan tilt platform that's controlled by two high-tech servos. And so the question is, can we run those two high-tech servos from the Jetson Xavier NX kind of out of the box? Well, to make that work, what I had to do was I just had to do the whatever sudo apt-get install whatever the Adafruit library is, the servo library, and then let's look at the code. Am I on the right spot? I need to move over to this one. Okay, let's look at this code real quick and see what it takes to run the servo. I just, from Adafruit servo kit, I import servo kit. I just import the library, and then to make the servos move where I want, I have to create a couple of servos. And so let's see, where did I create those servos? Okay, I tell it that it's got 16 channels, and then let's see here. I guess just right off the bat, I didn't even have to create them. I just have servo 0, and then I have servo 1. Okay, and to move them, all you got to do is just give kit servo. Which servo are you talking to? 0, and then dot angle, and then what angle do I want? Pan, which is 90 degrees, and then I set tilt to 45. Okay, so whatever number you put to the right of the equal sign, it will move the servo to that point. And what I'm doing here is I'm just moving it to kind of the nominal position to get the thing started. Okay, just starting out, moving it to the nominal position. And then after that, what I do is I look for that blue pin, and then what I do is I track on the blue pin. And so let's see if that will work. And again, the one thing I have to be very mindful about is killing the old program before I start the new program. If you try to go out and use the camera when it's already in use, sometimes that actually requires a reboot, and that would look very amateurish in the middle of an important review like this. So I'm trying to be mindful to make sure I've killed the old programs. So let's see here. I very much hope, let's see, that blue pin was operating on video 0. I think that might need to be video 1, and it is video 1. So that hopefully will be operating here. I'm going to go ahead and let you have a look at, let's see if I can kind of give you a better view here of my camera and my pan tilt setup like that. Okay, I need everyone to hold their breath. No, this one, I think it takes a while to load the servo library, so we won't hold our breath this time, but oh, I hope this works. I hope this works. Please work. Please, please, please work. Don't die. Don't die. Ah, it came to life. Okay. Okay, here you are. Look at the pin. Look at the pin. Okay, now watch this. Boom! Tracking in real time. Do you see this? Look at that. We can go up. We can go down. It's like it likes the keyboard. Now stop. Stop looking at her. You're just going to get frustrated. Keep your eyes on the pin. It's like he's got a crush on the keyboard. Keep your eyes on the pin. Okay, look at that. Coming over, tracking in real time with 2 servos, tilt and pan. I told you, stop looking at her. No, I'm not going to plug her in. Get your mind off of her. Think about the pin. Okay, so we're over here, and look at that. Do you guys see that? Now, I would say this is really kind of starting to be artificial intelligence, right? Because this camera is doing things based on what the camera is seeing, and you're actually recognizing an object and you're training an object. Okay, yeah, we are training it. Stop looking at her. I told you. Okay, stop it. Okay. So I told you that the easiest thing to track on is color. So we kind of, right, we take baby steps before we run. And let me see if I can kill this thing now. Come over here and we will cue out of it. All right. Well, if we can track on color, we can start tracking on things a little more complicated. So what we are going to track on is, see if you can guess here. And I just got to make sure that I am on camera 1, because I do believe depending on where I plug them in, these things can change. Yes, I'm on camera 1. All right, so this program, it has a lot of blank spaces in it. I just want to kind of give you an idea for how much we actually, how much code we actually have. This program is about 60 lines of code. Again, you know, we could do a lesson on this and learn this in 30 minutes. And so this is not terribly hard stuff. So we're going to come in and we are going to run this, and we're going to see what this one does. Again, it takes a little moment to load the servo library. I don't know why the servo library is kind of slow, but it takes a little while to load it. And let's see. Boom! Look at that. Recognizing me. Okay. It always kind of makes me feel good when I run one of these programs that I'm not so odd that it doesn't recognize my face as human. Okay, but you see it found my face and boxed it, and then it found my eyes and boxed them, and then I want you to pay attention to the little dots. You should see a red dot and a blue dot. The red dot is the center of the camera view, and the blue dot is the center of my face. And this is just kind of a little thinking about control systems. Well, what is the objective? You want my nose to be in the center of the camera. So The difference between the position of the blue dot and the red dot is the error. And what the servo system does, or what the control system does, is drive the error to 0. So if I move over here, we got an error, and then the system drives that error to 0. Okay, and you see, same thing. I can tilt, or I can pan, and that thing works really great. All right, just again, like, even though this is a single board computer supercomputer review, just can't help saying a little bit about control systems. Now, if you notice, if I'm real still, the blue dot comes almost on top of the red dot, but it doesn't get absolutely on top of the red dot. Now, why is that? Because this servo I have has only 1 degree resolution. And so when I get within 1 degree of the target, I have to stop. Because if I tried to drive that tiny error out, you see that tiny error? If I tried to drive that error out, it would jump past it a little bit, and then it would see it was past there, and it would jump past and past and past. And so as it's trying to drive that last little bit of error out, it's going to be glitchy. It's going to kind of go back and forth. And I would rather just get, if I'm within a degree of the right position, just stop and say good enough. Boom! Guys, do you see this? Look at that. Look at that. Wow, I can swing all over, and it continues to find me. Shazam! Do you see this? And again, this is a program that we could write like in 30 minutes, and that's why I'm so excited about this Jetson Xavier. And also, as I was saying, look at this. We've got a lot going on down here in the GPUs, and so this thing is taking advantage of those GPUs. And so even this program, I would say that this program you would have operating like this at this resolution on the Raspberry Pi. So we're really already beyond what you're going to be able to do on the Raspberry Pi. And I didn't really optimize this for frame rate. I didn't try to go in and really optimize this thing, but I think this is just pretty dandy. I think it's pretty dandy. Okay, so now we are going to move on to the next demo. And you guys ask me questions down below if you have questions on any of this stuff. I think this is really cool. Makes me happy, makes me excited. Okay, all right, so now that was that. So now what we did there, okay, moving right along, and I'll come back and kind of give you your old view back here of the most excellent, most exciting, most powerful and capable Jetson Xavier NX. I think you guys are starting to see that I love this thing already. Okay, so what did I do there? We found a face. Okay, we found a face. It didn't specifically find my face. It would have found any face. And in fact, let me come back over here on Python file and terminal. Let me run that thing one more time. Hopefully it will run one more time. I hate it when things don't go well on reviews, but I think it is going to run. There it is. Okay, so let's see if it recognizes a different face. All right. Yes, so now this is the problem here. Okay, so you see that it's finding 2 faces, so it's kind of jumping back and forth between them. So I didn't really optimize it. What I should have done is in the code, another couple of lines of code where I could have told it to just watch the biggest face, okay, and that would have been like the closest one. But let me see if I can do that. So you see now it is going in and it is putting Trump's face in the center of the picture. So you see wherever that goes, it goes and it puts his picture. So the thing, the point that I'm kind of making here is the point that I am trying to make. Okay, right there. I want to get the servo in the right position before I quit. The point that I'm trying to make is that it's just finding any face. It's not finding my face in particular. It's finding any face. And any face it finds, it draws a box around. And then you could do something like in your code. You could have it box all the faces, or you could just have it throw out all the faces. But the biggest one, you know, you could just kind of do different things on how you wanted the program to run. But that is finding any face. Now, taking it to the next level is not just finding a face, but who's in the box. Okay, whose face did you box? And to do that, you actually have to train it. Okay, and that's the next thing I have done is I have written a program to not just find the faces, but recognize the faces. And so I believe that this is the program that I want to run here. And I do believe that maybe I want to run that on camera 0. Maybe. Do I want to run that on camera 0? No, I want to run that on camera 1. Just like I had it. Okay, I'm overthinking this thing. Okay, this program again is 65 lines of code. We could learn how to do this in one single lesson. I could teach you how to do this. Good old-fashioned Python code again. Good old-fashioned Python code. Nothing fancy. Loading libraries and simple for loops and knowing a little bit about OpenCV. So we are going to run this thing. Right mouse click, run Python file in terminal. And I'm trying to think, this one might take a second to load that library as well. But let's see if this thing can actually not just find people, but recognize people. So really when people say face recognition, really what they're doing is face detection. To recognize it, what you really want to do is identify it. So you want to be able to say like face identification. And I'm good. I was getting scared because it wasn't in there. All right, look at that. Boom. You see that? Paul McWhorter. Giddy up. Giddy up. Look at that. And so it's finding my face. It is keeping the box on my face. Now, I don't have the servos on this program, but I could also like have it track my face. In fact, I could have it look at all the different people, identify everyone in the frame just like it's doing here, and then tracking on one person. And look at this. We are doing this at 14 frames per second. Try that on the Raspberry Pi. I don't think so. I don't think so it's going to work. And then also look back here, we are putting those GPUs now down to like 100%. The CPUs still look like they're running about 25%, but the GPU is as I start moving, we are really starting to work that thing. And if you look at it, the fan is really running now. So that is pretty exciting. Now, normally I would have my posse in here and show you with live people how it could recognize different people. But since we are practicing social distancing and are in the midst of a pandemic, I can't bring live people in here to show you how well it works with multiple people. So we will just do the kludgy thing of pointing the camera at the screen. I really hate that. Okay, it recognizes Donald Trump. That's great. And you might say, well, why am I putting Donald Trump and Nancy Pelosi pictures? I want to be squeaky clean as far as copyright goes. And so these are government non-copyrighted images. And so I am showing those so that we don't get in any copyright problems. But you see right off the bat, it is recognizing Donald Trump. And we can kind of run the video.
Fairly good.
Okay.
And congratulations. That's great. As part of our commitment to improving our
okay, so you can see that that is working. I'm wondering if it can get Nancy Pelosi as well. Yeah, look at that. Nancy Pelosi, that is pretty darn good. Okay, it's Donald Trump. Okay, so that works really well. Let's go to another video. I guess I should shut that one off. Let's go to the coronavirus task force and look at that right off the bat. Boom! We've got Mike Pence and Seema Verma, and it is working great. Let's look. She is just partial in it. Dr. Birx, giddy up! This thing is working. Is working like a charm. So we got 3 people in the picture, and it is recognizing everyone.
As you heard from the Secretary
Dr. Hahn, boom, look at that. That is really amazing. Now, seriously, though, the kind of really interesting thing is, let me turn the volume down a little bit so he won't be quite so. Okay. The interesting thing is, okay, it's getting a little confused there on Mike Pence. It every once in a while thinks it's me. But one of the things is it does a really good job of overlap, okay? When the 2 faces are overlap, it's able to see Mike Pence back behind Dr. Hahn, and other than every once in a while thinking that it's me. I guess that we both have gray hair, and we're both about the same age, and so you could understand that it might get a little bit confused there. But Dr. Birx is more unique, and Miss Verma is more unique, and so that works a little bit better. and let's see if anybody else comes up. I want to show you one other thing. Okay, now you see it's not recognizing faces in the press. Now that's not because they're non-human life forms. It is because the faces are small. And Dr. Anthony Fauci, look at that! Boom! This thing has got them all. Okay, but when you're looking at smaller faces, I could find smaller faces, but to do that, it would have to start running a lot slower. And so you kind of have this trade-off between how small of a face do you want to find and how smooth do you want your video to be. So even with the horsepower that you have here, you do reach a point that you've got to kind of make trade-offs between, even with the mind-boggling amount of power that this board has, you can max it out. If you're trying to look at a big picture and find lots of little bitty faces, you can max this thing out. Let's also just to be completely fair and balanced, let's look at the previous president. Let's see if we can recognize the previous president. This thing is working so well. Okay, there he is. All right, so let's see if we can maybe need to be a little closer. There he is. All right, and that was the small face problem. Okay, not saying Obama has a small face, saying that the camera was further away from him, so I had to scoot it up a little bit to get him. So let's see if that works. Look at that. President Obama. This thing is so smart. It really works, doesn't it? It absolutely works perfectly. And so I am just really impressed with it. Again, small faces in the press, and so it doesn't recognize them. Okay, so we'll go ahead and stop this. Okay, we'll go ahead and stop this. But the small faces, you can see that I would have to change some parameters. And in fact, you probably, I don't see it in here, but there's a scale factor. Yeah, so I am scaling the images down to 0.35 of their original size, and because of that, I'm not finding the smaller faces. Now, if I ran it where I was looking at the full frame size, then the thing would start really running slow. Okay, so let's see what else we have here. All right, this is a good one. So the stuff that I've been showing you so far are mainly kind of OpenCV related libraries. But what I've done is I've gone in and I started kind of working with some of the Jetson utilities, the utilities that are more specifically designed for the Jetson Nano or the Jetson Xavier NX. And so yes, I wrote this program, and the program is 30 lines long. So I want to show you what you can do with 30 lines of code. Let's take some of this nonsense out here and get it down to 28 lines of code. But you can see that in addition to loading OpenCV, I'm loading those Jetson libraries. Okay, so I wrote the program, but I am using libraries that were developed by NVIDIA. But you see, it's like I've got control. I can do what I want to with them. And so let's run this program and let's see what kind of cool things it will do. And I do believe I better think about which camera I am on. Let's see. I will try video 0, but I am not sure if that is the one that we're going to want to use for this. Okay, let's right mouse click. Let's run. Oh, that was not good. That was not good. Okay, I think it'll run this time. Here we go. No errors, that's good. Always encouraging. Looks like some stuff. Boom! Look at this. I'm a person. I'm human. Look at that. And look at that also. Do you see how it's kind of seeing the chair back there? Yeah, look at that. You see it sees me and it sees the chair. And one of the really impressive things about this program is, in fact, I don't like this program though. I do not like that program. That was Rec 8. I don't think I want the Rec 8 Alt. I'll show you why. I was using the default boxing to where here I'm letting that utility find, thinks the microphone's a remote control. You silly computer. Okay, I'm letting the Jetson utility find and identify, detect the objects, but then I'm using my OpenCV to draw the boxes around it the way that I want and to do the things the way that I want to do it. So you see, I'm not just blindly running a demo program. I'm using a very powerful library that NVIDIA provides, and then I am writing my own code around it. So you can see that we're operating at 20 frames per second. I've been boxed with a green box, and I am identified as a person. So let me get this camera and let's come over here and let's just kind of look. Oh, wow, look at that keyboard. Boom, mouse, boom, bottle, keyboard. What else? Cup. Okay, it sees this as a bowl. Look at that. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see what else we got. Scissors. Okay. And then if I look out here, look, it's finding all the chairs in the room. This is incredible. Look, a stack of books. It's finding the book. And then we come over here, and it is recognizing the bottle. And then the really amazing thing is we are operating at 20 frames per second. 20 frames per second, and we're finding all of these different things. The other thing, let's see how many. I can't quite get it to find the cup. There's the bottle, the two keyboards, cup, bowl, mouse, cup. And look at that. Even looking at my control screen, it sees me over there on the control screen. It still recognizes me as a person. It's just one of those little affirming things where the computer actually does acknowledge that you're a person. Okay, I got the scissors, keyboard, put it out in the room. I am finding lots of chairs. Let's look up at my light, sees it as an umbrella. All right, so the thing that amazes me is how it can find so many things at the same time. And the other thing is it's really good. I was kind of surprised at how good it is at nesting. I mean, things that are overlapping each other, it is able to do very, very well. And so that is just darn impressive. And doing this at 20 frames a second is absolutely amazing. And then again, looking at that GPU, as we start doing this type of thing, you can see that GPU really start maxing out as it's trying to keep track of all of these things that it is finding. So that is, in fact, very, very, very exciting. And there's just all types of things you could do. Like, imagine that you could recognize certain things. And like if you, oh, let's see. All right, one more thing. Hopefully one more thing. Yeah, let's just see. Like, I can come over here and just point there. Cat and dog. Cat and dog. Boom. So you've got cats and dogs. It does a lot of different animals. It does a lot of different fruits and vegetables. And then there's different training data sets. So this is a particular training data set, and there's a dozen or so different training data sets, and so that you can play around with different training data sets. Let's see, did it ever see cell phone? Baseball glove. No, you silly thing. Cell phone. What you can see here also is there's something that I call sort of like user bias. And so like what you tend to do when you're writing programs, you put it up and it thinks it's a baseball bat, and you start tweaking it until it gives you the right answer. And so you got to be careful if you're really testing how accurate your thing is, not to try to adjust the view until you get the answer that you want on the screen. But I digress. Okay. Running 20 frames a second. That is pretty darn cool. That is just really, really, really cool. Okay, let's do one more demo, or two more demos. I am going to kill this. Kind of a neat demo, if you ask me. And again, this is a simple Python program, and it's just based on some really cool libraries that some guys put together. And then with those libraries, you can run a pretty simple, you can write a simple program that will kind of interpret what you're doing. And so let me show you what I mean. We will fire this thing up, hopefully. Let's see. There it is. Boom. Okay, now what I want you to see that it has done is it kind of takes you and it turns you into a stick figure. And this is really, besides being cool, it's really pretty important. And so let me see if I can kind of get up here closer. The reason it is important is you can imagine that a person is a very complicated thing, and it's very hard for a computer to understand what a person is doing. And so what this is basically doing, this program is taking a person and turning them into a stick figure. Okay, so you see how it just kind of takes the major joints and turns you into a stick person. And so now all of a sudden you have a very, very powerful way of interacting, a very, very powerful way of interacting with the computer. Because like, imagine you could go like this, and these could be commands to the robot or to the computer to do certain things, or get closer, closer, go further, further away. So you could start programming your robot to do things based on what you're doing. Or if it has arms, you could have it lift its arms when you're lifting your arms. So the robot could begin to track what you're doing. This thing actually will do a full stick figure. It'll put your legs and your knees and your feet and everything. But it's just, if I do that, it's too far. I don't have room to get far enough away from the camera. So I'll just kind of do the torso version of the demo. But boom, man, this is really, really, really cool. Okay, guys, this is turning out to be a little bit of a long video, but you can see that I am, in fact, very excited about this board. And what I will say is 2 thumbs up. I really, really, really like it. I like it for the raw computation power that it has. I like it that we are able to go in and access that raw computation power as normal human beings that just enjoy doing little projects at home. And then I like that it builds on all the things that we learned from our work on the Jetson Nano, that all that stuff is going to apply right over to this board. So all these things I really, really, really like about it. Now, as far as our Ferrari example and being stuck in first gear, how did we do? Where are we? Okay, this is what I would say. A Ferrari has 6 gears, and I would say today in these demos, I've kind of gotten to second gear. So I'm not going around the track at 30 miles an hour. I'm going around the track at 60 miles an hour. And that is pretty darn fun. And it really motivates me and it spurs me on to try to learn how to go ahead and shift into third gear. But that's going to be a learning experience for me, because these programs that I've shown you today primarily are using kind of generic software. So like OpenCV is something that a bunch of really wonderful guys are out developing, and then that face recognizer program or some things a bunch of guys are out doing, but they're not really Jetson Xavier or Jetson Nano specific. Now, within the NVIDIA website, they have some incredibly powerful tools that are more tailored start to finish for the Jetson products. And the analogy I would give you is kind of like if you saw with OpenCV, we really are using those GPUs, but really what you want is one big fat pipe from the start to the end, and you want to stay in that big fat pipe the whole time. What I kind of feel like that I'm doing here is I've got a big fat pipe and I run to this point and then I stop and I have a little bail that I'm throwing the water from this big pipe into this other big pipe. And what I personally want to learn is I want to start learning those frameworks that NVIDIA has provided. So really, like, I would really like to learn Deep Stream and really like to learn their transfer learning thing. I would like to start learning those NVIDIA specific tools, but that is a steep learning curve, and as I learn it, then I can teach you. One of the things I'll say is that it seems like the model that NVIDIA uses for a lot of their software tools are containers, and a container is where you kind of download a sandbox onto your computer and you play in that sandbox. So anything you do in there doesn't mess up your main operating system. And so, like, if you wanted to try a different version of OpenCV, you could do it inside of a container and not be messing with the not be messing with your main operating system. But playing around with it a little bit, the containers are still a little bit of a mystery to me. I'm not yet at the point that I know how to develop my own software in the context of a container that has these super cool libraries in it that would allow me to do all this great stuff. So that's the next step for me, is to become more well versed and more expert. Well, not more expert, just understand how to develop using this kind of container framework. And now, is it NVIDIA's fault that I don't know how to use containers? No, it's not their fault. That's my fault. I gotta learn how to do that. But for me to go from second gear on this thing to third gear and then show you guys how to do it, what I've got to do is I've got to move from just falling back on the things I'm familiar with, like the OpenCV, and start using some of these really incredible tools that NVIDIA has put together. So bottom line is, I really, really, really love this new board. And I'll be honest with you, this is the direction that we're going to be going in the future on this channel. You know, because like I said, it seems like that every week there's a new single board computer that comes out and the reviews look great, the specs look great. But me as a teacher and you as a learner, there's only so much capacity that we have. So we have to pick and choose kind of carefully, right? I put a lot of investment in that Arduino training, and there's been millions of people that have benefited from that. I've put a lot of investment in the Raspberry Pi, and lots of people took that class. I'll tell you, I kind of got off track over there on the BeagleBone Black, and I spent a summer making video tutorials on BeagleBone Black, and then it just didn't go anywhere. So when we're going to invest in training and we're going to invest for you guys in learning, we got to kind of pick things carefully and really pick a platform that's got some momentum behind it and would really be something that we could stick with. So I am today committing that I will be moving forward with this. Now, if you're just getting started, like let's say you're one of the many guys that is watching my Arduino or Raspberry Pi series, the next place for you guys to go would be the Jetson Nano. That's your kind of entry board. I've got some links down below. All the things that I showed today you can do on the Jetson Nano. If you want to start learning on the Nano, you can get them in the links below. And then as you build up your expertise, you can then be looking for that point to move to the Jetson Xavier NX. The Jetson Nano, I think, is still about $99. It's between $99 and $140, depending on whether you get the one camera board or the two camera board, and a little bit about prices varying day to day. And I believe, if I am not mistaken, the target price for the Jetson Xavier is $399. That's a little bit pricey, worth every cent of it, worth every single last cent of it. But as you guys are getting started, you can start on the Nano and start putting your coins away to then buy the Xavier. As soon as I can find them on Amazon, I'll put a link to the Xavier down in my in the description below, so kind of can give you the opportunity of working on the exact same hardware that I am working on. But yeah, I do plan to really make a large investment in educational tutorials on this board. I am really, really impressed with it. The guys at NVIDIA are great guys. They put together a really, really super duper platform, and I am really impressed. Okay, this has been a little bit of a long video, but I think worth it. Some really exciting stuff we had the chance to take a look at, and hope you guys enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. So, wrapping things up, this is Paul McWhorter at TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.